My name is Lily Sullivan, and I'm 32 years old. For 15 years, my wealthy parents treated me like their personal servant while my younger sister Sarah lived like royalty. Every holiday, every family gathering, I was in the kitchen while she entertained guests. But last Christmas Eve, when my mother demanded I cook for 25 of Sarah's VIP friends with just 24 hours' notice, something inside me finally snapped. What happened next didn't just change our family dynamic. It exposed a secret that left everyone, including a Fortune 500 CEO, completely speechless. Before I tell you how I went from being the family maid to having my parents beg for my forgiveness, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy stories about justice being served. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Drop a comment below. I read every single one. Now let me take you back to that December evening when everything changed. I was in my Manhattan apartment, carefully folding clothes into my suitcase, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Mom, and I already knew this wouldn't be a pleasant conversation. In our Connecticut family home, Christmas decorations sparkled on every surface. I knew because I'd been the one hanging them every year since I was 17. Lily, cancel whatever silly plans you have for tomorrow, my mother Margaret said without even a hello. Her voice had that familiar commanding tone that brooked no argument. I continued folding my business blazer. What's happening tomorrow? Sarah's hosting her networking group for Christmas Eve dinner. Very important people, Lily. 25 guests, including executives from Pinnacle Corporation. She paused, and I could practically hear her smirk through the phone. You'll need to arrive by noon to start cooking. 7 main courses, 10 sides. The menu's already planned. My fingers tightened on my phone. Sarah's networking group. Of course. My younger sister worked in PR and never missed an opportunity to remind everyone how connected she was. Mom, your sister's making important connections that benefit this family. You should be grateful to help. Her words cut like they always did. It's not like you have anything else going on. I glanced at my laptop, where an email from Victoria Chen, CEO of Pinnacle Hospitality, glowed on the screen. If only my mother knew. Use the good china, she continued. These aren't your usual crowd, Lily. These are people who matter. People who matter. Unlike me, apparently. I'll text you the menu, she said. Don't embarrass us. The line went dead. I looked down at my plane ticket to Florida, departure time 8 p.m. tomorrow. My hand wasn't even shaking anymore. After 15 years of this, I'd finally learned the difference between their emergency and my priority. I sat on my bed, memories flooding back like a bitter tide. 15 years of being invisible, except when they needed something. Every Thanksgiving since I was 17, Lily will handle the cooking while Sarah entertains our guests. Every Christmas. Lily's between jobs again, but at least she's useful in the kitchen. Every family gathering where Sarah was introduced as our successful daughter in public relations, while I was simply, Lily's here too, she's helping out. The last family party had been the worst. Sarah's engagement celebration, 200 guests at the country club. I'd spent 14 hours preparing appetizers while Sarah held court in a $3,000 dress our parents bought her. When one of the guests asked what I did for work, my mother had actually laughed. Lily doesn't have Sarah's social skills, but she cooks well. I stood up and walked to my closet, pulling out my second suitcase. Inside, carefully protected in a leather folder, was the contract that would change everything. My company's name, Stellar Events, was embossed in gold at the top. I'd deliberately chosen a name that didn't include Sullivan. For 5 years, I'd built my empire in silence. 50 employees across 3 locations, a client list that included luxury resorts and Fortune 500 companies. And tomorrow, while my family expected me to slave over their stove, I had a meeting that would secure a $2 million contract. My phone buzzed. Sarah's text. Mom says you're cooking tomorrow. Don't screw it up. Important people will be there. I looked at my plane ticket again. Flight 447 to Fort Lauderdale, departing at 8 p.m. Not this time, I whispered to the empty room. For once, they'd have to figure it out themselves. I had a plane to catch. The irony wasn't lost on me as I continued packing. Two clear signs had shown me exactly where I stood in this family, and I'd ignored them for too long. The first sign was how they introduced me. At last month's country club dinner, my father had literally told his golf buddy, "Sarah's our success story. Lily's between opportunities." Between opportunities. I'd closed a $500,000 contract that very morning, but to them, I was perpetually unemployed, perpetually failing. They never asked about my work, never wondered how I afforded my Manhattan apartment or my new car. Their assumption was so complete that when I mentioned traveling for business once, my mother had laughed. "What business? Are you calling your little cooking hobby a business now?" The second sign was even more blatant. Last summer, I'd visited home to find my childhood bedroom had been converted into a storage room for Sarah's overflow wardrobe. My trophies, my books, everything that marked my existence in that house, boxed up in the basement. Sarah needed the space, my mother had explained, as if it were obvious. She's building her career. Image matters in PR. Meanwhile, Sarah had been given the entire third floor, renovated at our parents' expense, complete with a home office and walk-in closet. The message was crystal clear. One daughter was an investment, the other was invisible. I zipped my suitcase closed, remembering the company holiday party last week. My employees had thrown me a surprise celebration for landing the Pinnacle account. 50 people who saw my value, who respected my leadership. My phone lit up with another text from Mom. "Don't forget the truffle oil. These people have sophisticated palates." These people. As if I didn't regularly cater events for CEOs and celebrities. But why would she know? She'd never asked. The deepest cut was that they'd never even been curious. Not once in 5 years had anyone in my family asked, "So Lily, what exactly do you do all day?" They'd created their own narrative. Poor Lily. Can't hold down a job. Lives in a studio apartment. It was actually a 2-bedroom condo. Probably surviving on savings from Grandma. I'd invested that money into my business. At least she can cook. I employed 3 executive chefs. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my photos. There I was, shaking hands with the mayor at a charity gala I'd catered. There was my team, celebrating our 3rd location opening. There was the feature article about me in Hospitality Quarterly. The quiet revolutionary of luxury catering. None of these moments had been shared with my family. I'd learned early on that success without their permission was somehow threatening. The one time I'd mentioned landing a big client, my mother had immediately pivoted to Sarah's latest PR campaign for some energy drink. "At least you're useful in the kitchen," she'd said, patting my hand like I was a child who'd drawn a particularly nice picture. I opened my laptop and looked at my company dashboard. Stellar events. Established without a penny from my parents, built without the Sullivan name, thriving without their approval. Tomorrow's revenue alone would exceed what Sarah made in 6 months, but they'd never know that. My assistant had texted earlier. "Forbes wants to feature you in their 40 Under 40 issue. They're especially interested in your story of building the business without family support." Without family support. If only Forbes knew the half of it. My family hadn't just withheld support. They'd been actively blind to my existence beyond their kitchen. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, or been treated like your success doesn't matter, you'll understand why I did what I did next. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to hide your achievements from toxic family members? I read every comment, and it means the world to know I'm not alone in this. And if you're finding value in this story, please consider subscribing. We're building a community of people who refuse to let others dim their light. Now let me tell you about the text message that changed everything. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder, and reality hit me like cold water. If I stayed silent and played the servant tomorrow, I'd lose everything I'd worked for. The Pinnacle hospitality contract wasn't just another deal, it was the deal. $2 million, exclusive catering rights to their 5 Florida resorts, and a partnership that would put stellar events on the national map. The meeting was December 26th at 9 a.m., non-negotiable. Victoria Chen, Pinnacle's CEO, had been crystal clear. I'm flying back to Singapore on the 27th, Lily. If we don't finalize this in person, the board will go with our second choice. Our second choice. My competitor, who'd been circling this contract like a vulture. But it wasn't just about the money. 50 employees were counting on me. Maria, my head chef, had just put an offer on her first house based on the expansion this contract would bring. James, my operations manager, was planning to bring his kids to better schools. This wasn't just my dream anymore, it was theirs too. I pulled up my bank statements. Yes, I was successful, but this contract would change everything. It was the difference between being a regional success and becoming a national player, the kind of opportunity that comes once in a career. My phone rang. It was my CFO. Lily, just confirming you'll be at the resort tomorrow evening for the pre-meeting dinner with Victoria's team? I'll be there, I said, looking at my packed bags. Good. Victoria specifically mentioned she's excited to meet the CEO who built such an impressive company without any family money or connections. She said it's rare to find that kind of authentic success. Without family money or connections. If she only knew how true that was. My phone pinged with an email from my mother. The subject line, urgent, Christmas Eve menu. My stomach turned as I opened it. 7 main courses, 10 sides, dietary restrictions for 5 guests, wine pairings, dessert selection. The level of detail was staggering. She'd planned every single dish, every garnish, every serving plate. Use the Waterford crystal and the silver with the monogram, she'd written. These are important people, Lily. One of them is Victoria from Pinnacle Corporation. She could be valuable for Sarah's career. I nearly dropped my phone. Victoria. Victoria Chen was going to be at my parents' house? I quickly scanned the guest list my mother had attached. There it was, clear as day. Victoria Chen, CEO, Pinnacle Hospitality. My heart raced as I processed this impossible coincidence. The same woman I was meeting in Florida was going to be at my parents' house, expecting to be served by their unemployed daughter. Another text from Sarah popped up. Mom says Victoria Chen will be there. She's huge in hospitality. I'm hoping to pitch her on PR services. Don't embarrass me with your amateur cooking. Amateur cooking. I'd just catered Victoria's company retreat for 500 people last month, though we'd handled everything through my executive team. She'd never met me in person. That was scheduled for tomorrow. I sat down hard on my bed, the weight of the decision crushing me. Stay and serve the woman who was about to make me a millionaire, pretending to be a failure? Or leave and risk my family's wrath, but secure my future? My Uber notification popped up. Your ride to JFK Airport is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. tomorrow. I looked at the menu again, then at my contract, then at my plane ticket. The choice had never been clearer. I made my decision. I picked up my phone and dialed my mother's number. She answered on the first ring. Finally, I was starting to worry you weren't taking this seriously. Mom, I can't do it. Silence. Then her voice turned sharp. What do you mean you can't? I have a business trip. I'm flying to Florida tonight. Don't be ridiculous. Her voice rose. What possible business could you have? An important meeting. She actually laughed. Lily, stop being selfish. Your sister needs this. Sarah has a full catering team she could hire. With what money? Do you know how expensive that is? I bit my tongue. The irony of her asking me about catering costs while talking to someone who owned a catering company was almost too much. Family comes first, she snapped. Or are you too selfish to understand that? I understand perfectly. Family comes first when you need something from me. How dare you? When's the last time you asked about my life, Mom? We know about your life. You're between jobs, living in that tiny apartment. I'm a CEO. Another laugh, this one cruel. A CEO of what? Your imaginary company? It's not imaginary. I have 50 employees. Lily, enough with the fantasies. Sarah needs this. You owe us. I owe you? We raised you, fed you, kept you in our home, while treating me like hired help. You're being dramatic. What else do you have to do? Sit in your apartment alone on Christmas? I looked at my business class ticket. I have a flight at 8 p.m. Cancel it. No. If you leave, don't bother coming back. The threat hung between us, the same one she'd used so many times before. Usually it worked. Usually I caved. Then I guess this is goodbye, I said quietly. You can't be serious. I'm done being the family servant, Mom. I'm done being invisible until you need something. You ungrateful. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but for the first time in 15 years, it wasn't from fear or anger. It was from freedom. My phone immediately exploded with texts from Sarah. What did you just do? Mom's having a meltdown. Stop being so dramatic and get over here. I turned off my phone and continued packing. They'd figure it out. They always did when they had to. I turned my phone back on to set one thing straight. It rang immediately. Sarah. What is wrong with you? She screeched. Mom's calling all the relatives saying you've lost your mind. I have a business meeting. On Christmas Eve? Stop lying. I'm not lying. This is about that stupid fight last month, isn't it? When Mom gave me your room? My room was converted to your closet years ago, Sarah. And no, this is about my actual career. What career? You cook sometimes. I own a catering company. Sure you do. Her voice dripped condescension. Look, I'll pay you to cook. How's $200? I almost laughed. My day rate for personal chef services was $5,000, not that she'd ever know. This is non-negotiable, Sarah. I'm not coming. Mom will disown you. That's her choice. You're really going to ruin Christmas? Ruin my networking opportunity? Victoria Chen will be there. Then hire a caterer. On Christmas Eve? Are you insane? No one's available. I walked to my kitchen counter where I'd left a notepad earlier. On it, I'd written 3 catering companies that handled last-minute emergencies, along with their 24-hour hotlines. It was more than they deserved, but I wasn't completely heartless. I left a note on my kitchen counter with some numbers. I'm not driving to Manhattan to get your stupid note. Then Google emergency catering services. You're being selfish. I'm being professional. My business requires me to travel. What business? She screamed. Stop pretending you're something you're not. The Uber notification popped up. Your driver will arrive in 2 hours. I have to go, Sarah. If you do this, you're dead to us. I'm already invisible to you, what's the difference? I hung up and turned off my phone completely. On the kitchen counter, I placed the note with the catering numbers in clear view, just in case they somehow came by. Next to it, I left a copy of my business card, the one that read, Lily Sullivan, CEO, Stellar Events. They wouldn't come. They wouldn't see it. But at least I'd know I tried to help, even as I chose myself for the first time. The plane lifted off from JFK at exactly 8:07 p.m., and I finally exhaled. Below me, Connecticut disappeared into a blur of lights. Somewhere down there, my mother was probably frantically calling every relative, painting me as the ungrateful daughter who abandoned family on Christmas. I pulled out my laptop and opened the Pinnacle contract one more time. There it was, Clause 15.3. CEO presence required for all strategic planning sessions. Victoria had insisted on that clause herself, saying she only worked with founders who were hands-on. My email inbox showed 17 new messages from Victoria's team, all confirming tomorrow's schedule. The pre-meeting dinner at 7 p.m. The formal presentation at 9 a.m. on the 26th. The contract signing immediately after. pending board approval. I clicked on Victoria's latest email. Looking forward to finally meeting you in person, Lily. I've been following Stellar Events' growth for 2 years. Your reputation precedes you. My reputation. If only she knew that the same woman she was about to partner with was supposed to be serving her dinner at my parents' house right now. A text from my assistant came through the plane's Wi-Fi. Forbes wants to know if they can mention your family background in the article. They're interested in the built from scratch without family support angle. I typed back. Tell them the article runs December 27th, correct? Yes, it goes live at midnight on the 26th. Perfect timing. By the time my family realized who I really was, the contract would be signed and the news would be public. I pulled up the draft of the Forbes article they'd sent for approval. The headline read, "From Invisible to Invaluable: How Lily Sullivan Built a Catering Empire Without a Dollar of Family Money." The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor about timing. The Pinnacle Resort suite took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Atlantic, and a bottle of champagne waited on ice with a handwritten note. "Welcome, Ms. Sullivan. Looking forward to our partnership. Victoria Chen." I set down my bags and checked my phone. 47 missed calls from my mother, 18 from Sarah, even 3 from my usually silent father. I deleted the voicemails without listening. Instead, I opened my email to find something that made me smile. My PR manager had sent the final proof of the Forbes article with a note. "They've moved you to the cover story. It'll be on every newsstand December 27th. The cover. My photo. Professional, confident, nothing like the invisible daughter my family knew, would be on Forbes's cover. The article detailed everything. How I'd started with $5,000 saved from waiting tables, how I'd built the company without investors, how I'd specifically chosen to succeed without trading on my family's connections. Another email caught my eye from Victoria herself. "Lily, I'll be arriving late to tomorrow's dinner, coming straight from a social obligation in Connecticut. Hope that's all right." Connecticut. She was at my parents' house right now, probably wondering where the promised elaborate dinner was. My assistant texted again. "The Forbes reporter wants to know if you'll mention your family's reaction to your success." I thought about it. "Tell them my family will find out when everyone else does, when the magazine hits stands." That's cold, boss. I love it. I walked to the window, watching the waves crash against the shore. In 12 hours, I'd signed the biggest deal of my career. In 36 hours, my face would be on every Forbes magazine in the country. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success they never saw coming. While I slept peacefully in my Florida suite, chaos reigned in Connecticut. According to the texts I read the next morning, the disaster had unfolded exactly as expected. By 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, my mother had realized I wasn't coming. The kitchen remained pristine and empty, the refrigerator stocked with only basic ingredients, and 25 hungry guests were arriving in an hour. Sarah's panicked texts told the story. "Mom's losing it. She's calling every restaurant in a 50-mile radius. Everything's closed. How could you do this to us?" My father had finally texted at 6:45 p.m. "Your mother is having a breakdown. Please reconsider." At 7 p.m. sharp, the guests had started arriving. Investment bankers, PR executives, and most importantly, Victoria Chen, CEO of Pinnacle Hospitality. They came expecting an elaborate home-cooked Christmas Eve dinner, the kind my mother had bragged about for weeks. Sarah's text at 7:23 p.m. "We're ordering pizza. Pizza, Lily. Do you understand what you've done?" At 7:47 p.m. "Mom just told everyone you're unreliable and always have been. She's blaming you for everything." The pizza had arrived at 8:15 p.m., 5 boxes of Papa John's and 3 from Domino's, because one chain couldn't handle the last-minute order. My mother, who'd spent weeks bragging about her daughter's elaborate cooking, had to serve delivery pizza on her Waterford Crystal. Sarah's increasingly frantic texts painted the picture. "Victoria Chen looks disgusted. People are leaving. Mom told everyone you're mentally unstable. She said you've always been the family disappointment. The last text from Sarah sent at 9:33 p.m. Party's over. Everyone left early. Victoria Chen didn't even stay for dessert. Mom says you're dead to her. I put down my phone and ordered room service breakfast. In 3 hours, I'd be having dinner with Victoria Chen. I wondered if she'd mention the disaster at my parents' house. I wondered if she'd recognize my last name. Most of all, I wondered what my mother's face would look like when she learned the truth. The pre-dinner meeting at Pinnacle Resort was scheduled for 7 p.m. I arrived early, wearing my best suit, ready to close the deal of my lifetime. What I didn't expect was Victoria Chen walking in with a story to tell. "Lily," she greeted me warmly, though she looked tired. "I have to apologize for being late. I just flew in from the most bizarre Christmas Eve party in Connecticut." My heart rate stayed steady. I'd practiced for this moment. "Oh? What happened?" "You won't believe this." She sat down, shaking her head. "I was invited to what was supposed to be an elegant dinner party. The hostess, Margaret Sullivan, actually, same last name as you, funny coincidence, had promised this elaborate meal prepared by her daughter." I nodded, saying nothing. We arrived to find absolute chaos. No food prepared, empty kitchen, and the hostess scrambling to order pizza. Pizza! For executives and business owners she'd been trying to impress for months. That must have been awkward. It gets worse. She spent the entire evening bad-mouthing her older daughter, calling her unreliable, mentally unstable, a disappointment to the family. Apparently, this daughter was supposed to cook everything but just disappeared. Victoria pulled out her phone, showing me a photo someone had taken at the party. There was my mother, face flushed with embarrassment, pizza boxes visible on her precious mahogany table. The younger daughter, Sarah, kept trying to salvage things, but it was a disaster. She actually tried to pitch me PR services while serving Papa John's on china plates, worth more than most people's rent. "Did you stay long?" 20 minutes after the pizza arrived. The hostess was so busy making excuses and blaming the absent daughter that she forgot to actually host. It was... Victoria paused, searching for words. "The most unprofessional evening I've ever experienced. The woman actually said her daughter was too stupid to hold a real job, so she usually just cooked for them." My hands remained steady on my portfolio. "That's terrible." "Isn't it? I can't imagine treating family that way." Victoria opened her menu. "Now, let's discuss something more pleasant, your incredible company." The next part is where everything unravels spectacularly. If you've been waiting for the moment when truth meets consequences, you're about to be very satisfied. But first, what would you have done in my position? Would you have revealed yourself right then to Victoria? Or would you have waited for an even more perfect moment? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing different perspectives. And remember, if this story resonates with you, that subscribe button helps us reach others who need to hear it. Now, for the moment that changed absolutely everything. The next morning, December 26th, I stood in Pinnacle's boardroom, ready to present to Victoria and her team. The contract was on the table, the presentation was flawless, and everything was going perfectly. Until Victoria's assistant walked in with an iPad. "Ms. Chen, you need to see this. There's a photo from that Connecticut party going viral on LinkedIn." Victoria took the iPad, and I watched her face change from curiosity to confusion to complete shock. She looked up at me, then back at the screen, then at me again. "Lily," she said slowly, "this photo from the Sullivan house in Connecticut." She turned the iPad toward me. Someone had posted a family photo from my parents' wall, the one from last Thanksgiving where I stood in the background, barely visible, while Sarah posed front and center with our parents. "Is this you?" I nodded. "Yes." "Sullivan. Margaret Sullivan is your mother?" "Yes." The room went completely silent. Victoria's team exchanged glances. The legal counsel put down his pen. "The woman who called you unreliable, mentally unstable and unemployable. Is your mother? Yes. Victoria stood up, walked to the window, then turned back to face me. You were supposed to cook that dinner, the one that turned into a pizza disaster. I was. But you were here, meeting with us. I chose my business over being treated like a servant. Victoria pulled up something else on her phone. Your mother said you don't have a job, that you're a failure who can only cook. She doesn't know about stellar events. Your own mother doesn't know you're a CEO? She never asked. Victoria sat down heavily. Let me understand this. Your family has no idea that you run one of the most successful catering companies on the East Coast? None. They don't know about your 50 employees, your 3 locations, this $2 million contract we're about to sign? They think I'm unemployed and living in a studio apartment. Victoria's business partner, James, spoke up. I'm sorry, but I need clarification. The woman serving pizza on Waterford Crystal last night has no idea her daughter could have catered that entire event with 5-star quality? She's never asked what I do for a living. She just assumes I'm a failure. Victoria started laughing, not a polite chuckle, but actual, genuine laughter. Oh my God, she spent the entire evening complaining about her disappointment of a daughter, and that daughter is you, the CEO I've been trying to partner with for 2 years. She looked at her team. Gentlemen, I think we're about to sign the most interesting contract of our careers. Victoria pulled out her phone again, this time opening Google. I have to know something, she said, typing my name. The search results loaded instantly. Oh my God. She turned her phone toward her team. Look at this. The first result was my Hospitality Quarterly feature. The second was the announcement of my James Beard Award nomination. The third was a Wall Street Journal piece about women entrepreneurs. Your family doesn't know about any of this? Before I could answer, her assistant rushed in again. Ms. Chen, you'll want to see this. Forbes just announced their 40 Under 40 cover story for tomorrow. He projected it onto the boardroom screen. There I was, professional headshot front and center, with the headline, From Invisible to Invaluable, How Lily Sullivan Built a Catering Empire Without a Dollar of Family Money. Victoria read the preview aloud. Sullivan, 32, built stellar events from a $5,000 investment into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, deliberately avoiding any family connections or support. I wanted to prove that success doesn't require a famous last name or family money, Sullivan states. She looked at me. This goes live tomorrow? At midnight tonight. Your family still doesn't know? They will when everyone else does. James whistled low. Your mother is going to see her unemployable daughter on the cover of Forbes. Victoria's assistant was now scrolling through the article preview. It says here you have a 6-month waiting list for events. Is that true? 8 months for peak season, Victoria stood up. I need to make a phone call. She stepped out of the room, and we could see her through the glass, talking animatedly on her phone. She returned 5 minutes later with a strange smile. I just called Margaret Sullivan. My stomach dropped. You what? I told her I was very disappointed in last night's event and that I'd be taking my business elsewhere. She begged me to reconsider, said it was all her older daughter's fault. Victoria. Then I told her I'd just signed a $2 million contract with the most talented entrepreneur I know. She asked who? I said, your daughter, Lily Sullivan, CEO of Stellar Events. The room was silent. The sound she made, Victoria continued, was like all the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Then she hung up on me. My phone, which I'd kept on silent, showed 47 missed calls in the last 3 minutes, all from my mother. Victoria extended her hand across the table. Ms. Sullivan, let's sign this contract. I believe we have a partnership to celebrate. As I signed my name on the $2 million contract, my phone lit up with a text from my father. Your mother just fainted. What the hell is Stellar Events? The contract was signed, champagne was poured, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I finally excused myself to check the messages. Mom, Answer your phone now. Sarah. Is this some kind of sick joke? Dad. Your mother is hysterical. Please call. Sarah. Victoria Chen just told everyone you're a CEO? Mom. This is cruel, Lily, pretending to be successful to humiliate us. I walked back into the boardroom where Victoria and her team were still celebrating. My family thinks I'm lying about being a CEO. Victoria's eyes gleamed. Would you like me to send them something? Before I could respond, she was taking a photo of me with the signed contract, the Pinnacle executive team, and the champagne. She typed quickly and hit send. I just posted it on LinkedIn, she said, tagged Stellar Events, Pinnacle Hospitality, and Margaret Sullivan of Connecticut. The post read, thrilled to announce our 2 Miller partnership with Stellar Events and their brilliant CEO, Lily Sullivan. Her company's excellence in luxury catering will elevate Pinnacle's guest experience across all properties. Amazing to work with someone who built their empire from scratch. Within minutes, the post had dozens of likes and comments. Industry leaders I'd worked with for years chimed in with congratulations. Previous clients shared their experiences with Stellar Events. My phone rang. Sarah. I answered on speaker, with Victoria's permission. This can't be real. Sarah's voice was shaking. It's real. You've been a CEO this whole time, 5 years. Why didn't you tell us? You never asked. You all assumed I was a failure and treated me accordingly. Mom's having a breakdown. She's calling all her friends trying to explain. Everyone saw Victoria's post. That's not my problem anymore. How can you be so cold? I looked at Victoria and her team, all successful professionals who'd never once questioned my worth. I'm not cold, Sarah. I'm done. I'm done being invisible until you need a cook. I'm done being the family disappointment. I'm done pretending to be less than I am to make you comfortable. But we're family. Family doesn't treat each other like servants. Call me when you're ready to meet Lily Sullivan, the CEO, not Lily the cook. I hung up. Victoria raised her champagne glass. To boundaries. We all toasted, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly seen. That evening, I finally called my mother back. She answered before the first ring finished. How could you do this to us? She was crying, actually crying. Do what exactly? Humiliate us. Victoria Chen told everyone at the country club about your company. People are calling, asking why we didn't know our own daughter was successful. You never asked about my life, Mom. We asked. We knew you cooked sometimes. You assumed I was a failure. For 5 years you've introduced me as unemployed. You've never once asked about my work, my apartment, my life. You should have told us. I tried. Remember 3 years ago when I mentioned landing a big client? You immediately started talking about Sarah's PR campaign for an energy drink. You literally said, "That's nice, dear, but Sarah's work is really taking off." Silence. I left catering numbers on my counter, I continued calmly. You could have saved the party. We don't have keys to your apartment. You've never asked to visit my apartment. You don't even know where I live. That's not... Mom, I employ 50 people. I have 3 locations. I've been featured in multiple publications. I was nominated for a James Beard Award, and you thought I was unemployed because that was easier than actually seeing me. We're your family. My family needs a servant. My business needs a CEO. I chose my business. This is about spite. No, Mom. This is about self-respect. I've built something amazing, and I did it without any of you. Not your money, not your connections, not even your belief in me. What do you want from us? Nothing anymore. That's the point. For the first time in my life, I need absolutely nothing from you. Lily. The Forbes article comes out at midnight. You might want to prepare yourself. It details exactly how I built my company without family support. You told Forbes about us? I told Forbes my truth. If that embarrasses you, maybe you should think about why. I heard my father's voice in the background. Margaret, maybe we should listen. I'm done listening. My mother snapped at him, then to me. You've destroyed this family. No, Mom. I've finally built my own life. Call me when you're ready to be part of it, as equals, not as master and servant. I hung up gently, feeling lighter than I had in years. The social consequences came swift and brutal, but not for me. Within 48 hours of Victoria's LinkedIn post, my family's carefully curated reputation had crumbled. The country club gossip mill was working overtime, and Sarah's panicked texts told the story. Pinnacle just canceled our PR contract. Victoria Chen said they don't work with people who lack family values. That was a $500,000 annual loss for Sarah's firm. Mom got removed from the charity board. They said it was unrelated, but everyone knows. Dad's golf buddies are asking him how he didn't know his own daughter was a millionaire. The Forbes article had gone viral in our Connecticut social circle. The headline alone, "Built without a dollar of family money," was damning enough. But the quote that really destroyed them was buried in paragraph 3. My family assumed I was unemployed. It was easier to build an empire in silence than to fight their assumptions. My father finally called me directly, something he hadn't done in years. Lily, I need to say something. I waited. I knew you were doing something with catering. I saw the business registration years ago when mail got mixed up. But your mother was so certain about who you were supposed to be. I should have spoken up. I'm ashamed. It was the most honest thing he'd said to me in 15 years. Why didn't you? I asked. Because it was easier to let her narrative stand than to fight it. I see now that made me complicit. Your success is remarkable, and we missed it because we weren't looking. Dad, your mother's lost 3 charity positions. Sarah's firm is hemorrhaging clients. Everyone wants to know how we could treat our successful daughter like hired help while praising Sarah for mediocre PR work. I never wanted to hurt anyone. You didn't hurt us, Lily. We hurt ourselves. We created a story where you were the failure and Sarah was the success. And now everyone can see we were blind. He paused. That pizza disaster is already country club legend. Margaret Sullivan, who bragged about her entertaining for years, serving Papa John's on Waterford Crystal while her CEO daughter was signing million-dollar deals. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy. Dad, don't apologize. We earned this. Every single consequence. While my family dealt with their social catastrophe, my life exploded in the best possible way. The Forbes article had included a photo of me at the Pinnacle signing, champagne in hand, surrounded by executives who valued my work. The contrast to my family's Thanksgiving photo, where I lurked in the background like hired help, wasn't lost on anyone. Within a week of publication, Stellar Events received over 200 inquiries. High-end clients who'd been on the fence suddenly wanted to work with the CEO who built an empire from scratch. My inbox was flooded with interview requests, speaking engagements, and partnership proposals. Victoria Chen became my biggest champion. She introduced me to her network, telling everyone the story of the Christmas Eve disaster with barely concealed glee. Imagine, she'd say, having a golden goose in your house and treating it like a servant duck. 3 major contracts came from those introductions alone, worth a combined $10 million. I hired 20 new employees to handle the growth, promoting Maria to executive chef and James to COO. During our expansion meeting, Maria said something that stuck with me. You know what I love most about this company? You built it for people who were overlooked. Half of us were told we'd never amount to anything. She was right. I'd unconsciously hired people like me, talented individuals who'd been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated. My assistant forwarded me a text from a reporter. Your story is everywhere. Food Network wants to discuss a documentary. Working title, Invisible to Invaluable, The Lily Sullivan Story. But the best moment came when I received an invitation to speak at Cornell's School of Hotel Administration. My dream school. The one my parents had said was too ambitious for me. The topic? Building success without permission, creating your own path in hospitality. As I reviewed my speaking notes, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. We need to talk, please. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I archived it and went back to planning my future. Success, I'd learned, was the best response to disrespect. But boundaries? Boundaries were the best gift I could give myself. 3 months later, I agreed to meet my family at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant in Manhattan, my territory. They looked different. Smaller somehow. My mother had lost her imperious edge, Sarah her smugness, and my father seemed to have aged years. Before anyone speaks, I said, setting down a single sheet of paper, these are my terms. They leaned in to read. 1. Equal respect or no contact. 2. No more servant treatment, ever. 3. Public acknowledgement of my success. 4. Genuine apology, not just words. 5. Therapy. Family and individual, this is non-negotiable, I continued. I'll be your daughter, not your servant. Your sister, not your staff. Those are my terms. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Lily, we've lost everything. My reputation, Sarah's clients. That's not my responsibility, Mom. We know, my father interrupted. We're not here to blame you. We're here to ask for a second chance. Sarah spoke for the first time. I was jealous. You were always better at everything, but Mom made me feel special by making you feel small. I see how sick that was now. It was the most honest she'd been in years. I go to therapy now, she added quietly. The therapist says we created a family system where someone had to be the scapegoat for everyone else to feel successful. You were assigned that role before you could even fight it. My mother reached across the table but didn't touch me. I'm sorry, not just for Christmas Eve, but for 15 years of blindness. I turned you into a servant because I couldn't bear that you might be more successful than the life I'd planned for you. I looked at each of them. I'll consider it, but know this. I'm not coming back to the same family. If we rebuild, it's as equals. They nodded. And Mom? You're paying full price if you ever want Stellar Events to cater anything. For the first time in months, she actually smiled. Fair. 6 months later, I hosted my first family dinner in my actual apartment, the 2-bedroom condo with a view of Central Park that they'd never known existed. My team from Stellar Events catered it because I no longer cooked for family gatherings. That was a boundary I'd never cross again. As my parents and Sarah sat at my dining table, being served by my employees who called me boss, the role reversal wasn't lost on anyone. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. I want to be clear about something, I said, raising my glass of wine. Success doesn't need permission. Self-worth doesn't require validation. And respect? Respect is non-negotiable. My mother nodded. She'd been in therapy for 4 months and had publicly apologized at the country club, admitting she'd been blind to my success. It didn't repair her reputation, but it began to repair our relationship. Sarah's PR firm had pivoted, and she'd asked, professionally, humbly, if Stellar Events might consider her for our PR needs. I'd told her to submit a proposal like everyone else. She did, and it was good. We were considering it. My father had become my unexpected ally, finally finding his voice after years of silence. He now introduced me as my daughter, the CEO, with genuine pride. But the biggest change was in me. I no longer hid my success or dimmed my light to make others comfortable. My company had grown to 100 employees, with locations in 5 cities. The Food Network documentary had aired to critical acclaim. And every single morning, I looked in the mirror and reminded myself, I'm Lily Sullivan, CEO of Stellar Events, not the family servant, never again. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. Remember that. Thank you for joining me on this journey from invisible to invaluable. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about a time when you had to choose yourself over family expectations. Drop a comment below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you believe everyone deserves respect regardless of their role, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to stay small. Remember, you're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Until next time, this is Lily reminding you to know your worth, and then add tax.